In this video, we are looking at breaths per minute for humans. We are told that the number of times an adult human breathes per minute when they are at rest is normally distributed. So that is really important because that tells us what shape of curve to draw. So I do my best attempt to draw a symmetrical bell curve, and I put an axis underneath it. We continue reading and we find the mean of 16. So we know that on the bell curve, the mean is in the middle. So that is mu, and that is 16. We know that the bell curve is dividing each half into thirds. So I put 3 tick marks above and below the mean. And so that is for above the mean at 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations. Below the mean is -1, -2, and -3 standard deviations. We're then told that the standard deviation is 4 breaths, and so we know that above the mean is where we add the standard deviation, so we'll be adding 4, so this will go 20, 24, and 28. And then below the mean is where we will be subtracting 4, because these are negative. And so we will have 12 minus 4 would be 8, minus 4 is 4. So that gives us the well labeled. And now they're asking us for shaded. So we need to look at a specific observation. Sorry, got all mixed up. A specific observation. So we are told while taking a patient's vital signs, you observe that the patient takes 25 breaths per minute. And we're asked, is this unusual? So our question here doesn't ask for a percent, doesn't ask for a number, just unusual. So I'm going to go to my picture and mark where 25 is. So it's right above 2. So it's in this section, 25. And the shading is hard because it didn't ask us what percent above, what percent below, what percent between. So at this moment, I'm not going to shade. What it asks us is unusual. And so we have to think about, well, what does that mean to be usual? What does it mean to be unusual? And so this is where we are really going back to our pre-lecture, and we are going back to the empirical rule. So in our pre-lecture, we had a normal curve, and we had it all marked off by our standard deviations and our mean. And then we had some percentages. So we had within 1 standard deviation, was about 68%. And then we had within 2 standard deviations, and that was about 95%. These are just estimates, not exact. And then we had within 3 standard deviations, is about 99.7, which is why we only ever go up to 3, because we've got almost everybody by that time. So when we're looking at these, we define usual to be within 2. So anything from -2 to +2 is considered pretty ordinary or usual. So on this picture, here's -2, here's +2, and this section in between, all in here, is usual. Okay. So usual is giving us 95% of the data. If something is normally distributed, as long as you're not too far from the mean, it's a usual value. We see this with all of the things in healthcare where we have a normal blood pressure range that we're looking for. We have a normal pulse that we're looking for. We have normal levels of all the different lab tests that we run. And as long as the person is within that normal range, we're not concerned. What we're looking for when we're trying to diagnose is anything that is unusual. And so in this question, we're asked, is the patient breathing 25 breaths in a minute unusual? So comparing my image based on the empirical rule with my image that I drew for this question, I would have a usual section here from 24 breaths down to 8 breaths. So this section is what I'm going to shade. This section is usual. So average is 16. Some people breathe more than average, some people breathe less than average, but that section is usual. Now I want to focus on the place where I marked my specific patient. So I'm going to try to switch pen colors again and look at my specific patient. Are they usual or not? So we have marked our specific patient right here. Going over the red with green, they had 25 breaths, and they are above the usual range. So this is above usual. So then down here, is this unusual? Yes, it is unusual because it is not between 8 and 24. It is above. So breathing less than 8 times in a minute, that would be unusual. Breathing more than 24 times in a minute, that also is unusual. And so when we're just asked, is this a usual value, we are looking for that number to be within 2 standard deviations. So we don't actually have to go out and find the percentage on this one. We don't need the app for this one. It's just that well-labeled and at this point shaded picture. My shading on this picture is the usual zone. And because my patient is above that, that is how I concluded that it is an unusual value.